built on relationships, focused on people, and rooted in the community. Welcome to the Build Blue podcast. Tune in for weekly episodes featuring guests who are building a better tomorrow. You'll hear inspiring stories from industry leaders, business owners, community partners, and our team members. The Build Blue podcast, where construction comes to life. An Apex Construction Group production. Welcome to the Build Blue podcast. My name is Jess Blaze with Apex Construction Group, and we are joined today by Tami Paulsen. She is coming to us virtually. This is our first virtual episode, so thank you for joining us.
Oh, you are very welcome. I'm in sunny, warm Florida, so but I really appreciate the invitation to talk about a subject I'm most passionate about, and that's the CityArt Walking Sculpture Tour as one of our main focuses today.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that and some other fun things, but we'll start, Tami, by having us tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I was born and raised in Mankato, and Brian and I, my husband Brian of 40 years, met in high school. We were actually high school sweethearts. We graduated from Mankato East. Upon graduation, I attended Marquette University for 2 years and then transferred to the University of Minnesota to be closer to Brian, who was attending architecture school there. I entered the College of Business there and got a degree in marketing and management, and then a minor in what would now be called human resources. And after graduation, Brian was still in architecture school, and my dad, who was involved in a multi-generation family business called C&N Sales Company. It was a large amusement and vending company. And he asked me to come home and help for a couple years. There was a lot happening in this industry at the time. It was the height of the video game boom. It was the start of businesses really going computerized, and being a recent business graduate, I had background in some of those things. So I did move home, lived with my parents for a couple of years, and it ended up to be an amazing career for me. And Brian actually ended up then following me to Mankato, where he got his first job, which had not been our intention. But the amusement vending industry, as I said, especially on the amusement side with the video game boom, it was crazy, explosive. The company was expanding multi-state. We opened arcades, big game rooms, things like that. I was a total novelty in that it was a very male-dominated industry. And something I always like to share with women in particular is when I graduated from college in 1980, a long time ago, but only 12% of our business class were women. So there weren't a lot of women in business, and now it's like 50% plus. So It was a very different time. And I was amongst a handful of women really involved in the industry. I think that helped me in many ways because I was kind of a novelty. And I was asked to join our state association board. And I thoroughly enjoyed that, made so many relationships, and I became the first woman president of that association. And during that time, I also was asked to join the national board and served on that for 10 years and became the second woman president of that association in its 50-year history. And during that time, it was amazing. I was able to travel to, I would say, 2/3 of the states of the United States. We were in France, Germany, London, and then Japan was the big kind of finale for me, where all the video game manufacturers were. Totally an amazing experience because I was pretty young, and to be a woman, especially like in Japan, where a CEO or president or anything is probably a man in his 70s or 80s. So I had all these Japanese CEOs coming up, getting their picture taken with me. It was quite the experience, but it was wonderful. And then when I was turning about 40, we have one son, Jonathan, and he was turning about 6. And I just felt I needed a change of life, and I wanted to spend a little more time, have a little more flexibility. Our company had grown so fast. I was traveling all the time. And so I ended up selling my shares of the business to my brother, Tim. And then Brian had gone out on his own to form his own company after being with another architectural group for, I think, 10 or 12 years. And so I joined his small little firm at the time. And we then, grew that business together for, I think, how many years was I there? From 1998 till 2013, when we eventually sold to, at that time, INS Group. And we had an amazing company, much growth, developed a wonderful reputation for design. And that's where a lot of my public art passion and things like that come from that background. And then when INS Group purchases, I served as our marketing and public relations director and completely rebranded that company and was there for about 3 years, and then thought I was going to permanently retire. And then I went to work for the Jonathan Zarek Cancer Fund with the Mankato Area Foundation and did that for 3 years, which was another completely different and amazing experience. And yeah, so I feel fortunate in all the different varieties of experiences and opportunities I've had.
What a wonderful career. Thank you for going in depth like that. I always find it so interesting to hear where people have been and how they got to where they are. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. We start our Apex podcast with an icebreaker, and we like to ask, what was your very first job? So we'd love to go back even further and find out more about that.
Well, my first job, I don't know that it was actually a job, but because of the CNN Sales family business, they had actually a record and album store. And I worked there when I was very young. And that was fun because all the teenagers were coming in and buying albums and stuff. And I helped my cousins who were teenagers and kind of ran that. But my first official job was for Brett's department store when I was on Brett's teen board. And so that was, I think, the first paycheck that I actually got when I worked in Jackson West. And some people, older people, will remember that. But yeah.
That's awesome. We've had Nancy Zalek on the podcast, so we've heard a lot about the history of Brett. So it's cool to hear that come full circle. So let's talk about the CityArt, and I want to hear more about your role with CityArt here in Mankato, the mission, and how it got started.
I think it's important to maybe start with how it got started.
Sure.
The program is a direct result of Envision 2020. And for those who might not know what that was undertaken by the city of Mankato, North Mankato, both Nicollet and Blue Earth County. We had MSU, the hospital, the major organizations in town very much involved in that. And it was 2006 that the planning for that began. And Envision 2020 involved hundreds of community members. I was asked to co-chair that with then CEO of Mayo, Dr. Bill Rupp. And so we were the co-chairs of the whole Envision 2020 process. And out of that process, many things came out that have come to fruition, and now 2023. So it's really rewarding and exciting for me to see. But one of the most important priorities became revitalization of downtown Mankato. And at that time, for those people who weren't there then, it looked very, very different. I mean, we had the Civic Center, but there were all sorts of abandoned buildings. The former Mankato Mall was basically pretty much abandoned at that time, with the new mall at General Growth. It was not a very exciting or vibrant place. And being in the design industry in particular, Brian and I knew that a vibrant downtown and good design really make a difference in a community overall, and being able to attract young people, retain talent, and all those sorts of things. So throughout the process, though, the community also decided that was something that was going to become a priority. So many, as I said, strategic initiatives came out of that planning effort. The report was released in 2007. And then there was another group that formed, or many groups that formed, to help put together the priorities, right? Make them become implemented. And one of those groups was called the City Center Renaissance Group. And they were strictly focused on that, on downtown revitalization and public art. became a priority out of that. And we used to do something, some of the community leaders were asked to go on inner city vision leadership trips. I'm not sure if GMG is still doing that now, but we did 3 or 4 of those, I think. And every community that we went to was slightly larger than Mankato and had things that we wanted Mankato to implement, that we wanted, they were like a high goal or, an objective out there. Oh, can we be like Bellingham, Washington, for instance, at that time? So every one of the communities, Fort Collins, Colorado was another place we visited. Public art and the arts were absolutely essential to their growth and vitality as a community. And all the leaders said that. So even though we had some kind of reluctant city council members in the beginning that thought, oh, we don't want to invest, money in the arts, people came around, and the arts became a very high priority for both communities. And out of that, at the time, another member of the community, her name is Shannon Robinson. She was then the director of Twin Rivers, and she and I got together. I was very involved in what we had formed, the City Center Partnership, which again, another outgrowth to revitalize downtown. And we put together the idea of a sculpture tour and a rotating sculpture walk with public art. And so that's how it got started. And we started really planning for it in 2008 and had a really good plan in 2009. But with the Great Recession, we knew that business support was essential to make this program vibrant or make it even feasible. So it was not a good time to be asking businesses for money. So we kind of shelved it, and we did some other things. We took a public art inventory, categorizing what assets we already had. And there were many that we didn't know about. We did that. And then when things started really, we started coming out of the recession in 2010, we decided then to go forward. And so 2011 was our first official walking sculpture tour. And yeah, it's been going ever since. So it's been wonderful. And I have to say, it would not ever have been possible without the businesses. And I'm not just talking about sponsorships, but you have Vetter Stone, who continues to donate all the stone pedestals we need. Jones Metal fabricates, all the plates, the welding plates for it. We have R.W. Karlstrom, who's always provided welding equipment and things for installation. Cato Moving and Storage, or Mankato Mayflower. I can't even tell you what an amazing partner they are, in that they've provided trucks and transportation and storage. We're just really fortunate to have all the support. And of course, the cities, both Mankato and North Mankato, are very, very involved, serve on the committees, and continue to provide funding for the program.
The way that the business communities in Mankato and North Mankato rally around community initiatives is truly one of the most special things about these communities.
It really is, yeah.
And CityArt has some other initiatives in addition to the sculpture walk. Can we talk about some of those?
Yeah. Through the years, we've done several. One is called CityArt on the Go, which was the painting or decorating of traffic boxes, the large traffic boxes downtown. And we now have 4 new ones that we'll be working with the city of Mankato on to get that implemented, or get those taken care of probably this coming fall. The several murals in the community are all part of the CityArt program. And then, of course, a crowning jewel has been the Silo Art project and the painting of the silos. And that was another priority that came out of Envision 2020, where people talked about downtown revitalization, and not to be rude about the silos, because they're working silos, but they were kind of an eyesore. And so having those painted or decorated was just a really major initiative. And it was difficult with many of the mill owners. That mill has changed hands multiple times because they're working silos. There's a a lot of consideration to having someone paint or decorate or hang off them as Guido did, But again, I have to call out the businesses that have just been amazing. And Ardent Mills, my God, they have been amazing all the way along, and very, very supportive and so community minded. And so that's a big project for the community.
And they turned out breathtaking, and it was so special for the community to watch that process of Guido painting them and see it come to life on such a large scale. Was unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. I mean, I still kind of marvel at it. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. And when there's so many photographs that were taken by drones and interested people, and we hired photographers, to catalog the experience. And so yeah, I mean, when you go back and see how it started, him hanging, way up in the air with these grids, and you're like, what is he doing? But oh my God, they are just beautiful.
When my kids were doing internet school during the pandemic, we would drive past, and that would be our art field trip. Oh. And we would drive past and watch Guido paint.
So,
yeah. The CityArt walking sculpture tour, like you said, was brought to our community in 2011, and it's really grown over the years, and it's continuing to grow. So let's talk about kind of this upcoming year and what the community can expect.
Well, this upcoming year, we have some new sponsors, such as your company. Thank you very much. And some new sites, because with your project at the post office building, we're going to put an installation there. We also have one at the Carnegie Art Center, has become a sponsor, for a long-term sponsor. They've agreed to be, and so we're installing a piece there. We have another piece being installed on 2nd Street. So we've expanded the footprint a bit, and we'll have 32 pieces this year. And again, they're very, very diverse, from all sorts of different artists from all over the United States, different mediums. So yeah, it will be a great, great tour.
We're very excited to be part of it, and just to see it expand, kind of out of the city center a little bit, just keep that traffic going all around. I have to put you on the spot. Have you had a favorite sculpture since the beginning?
Oh my goodness. There's a few that really stick out to me. I think, of course, I was, grew up in the era of Prince. I used to actually see him at First Avenue on occasion. So the Prince guitar this year, I think, is really, really special. Some of the interactive pieces that we have, the Maestro down by the Civic Center, and people can play. Some of the bronzes, I mean, we have several beautiful bronzes in the community. I tend to have a wide variety of interest in art, but those pieces I would say kind of stick out.
There's been so many wonderful ones.
There's so many.
Let's talk about the importance of accessible public art for a community like Mankato, and how that kind of elevates us from a tourism standpoint and just enriches our community for people who live here.
Yeah, well, because this is a free tour, there's no cost to do it. It's all outside. And, we make sure that it is accessible, for handicap accessibility and what have you. So it is completely accessible to people. During the pandemic, it was really interesting, because when people were, confined to their homes and not able to go places and gather in public, it was amazing how many groups, like families, you saw taking the tour, even in the winter months, driving and stopping and getting out. I mean, it was something to do. It was something safe being outside. Yeah, you could keep a distance, from people. So it is, I think having it accessible like this it's really brought art in many ways to the forefront of people's minds in the community. And I think that's great, because that means the arts will continue to be elevated, in people's minds and desires.
Yeah, absolutely. There's several ways the community could get involved with CityArt. Let's talk about those.
Well, We always have opportunities on our actual CityArt committee. We're always looking for new members. I, by the way, will be retiring, not in the not too distant future. But we have some great younger new members coming on board, which is great. Also, people can always get support the program financially. We're always looking for donors and or sponsors. There's also ways to support it through the purchase of art. We're very fortunate. The last few years, we've sold, I think, each year about 4 or 5 pieces.
Wow.
And the program does get a small commission out of that, but it all helps. And many of those pieces then get installed. For instance, 2 this year will be installed within the community and be accessible. So there are 2 more permanent pieces of art that will be available to the public to see. So I think those are all really great opportunities for people. Also, we look for volunteers on installation and de-installation, people to help lift and move the pieces. So if anyone is interested, they can either contact Twin Rivers Council for the Arts or the City Center Partnership, and we can certainly help them find ways to become involved.
And I'll put a link to both in the show notes of this episode so we can make it really easy for folks. And then what are the dates of the installation of the new sculptures this spring?
This year it is on Saturday, May 20th. And the artists arrive on Friday, the 19th. We always have an event for them the evening before, and that is a very fun event. And it's an opportunity for these artists to gather, from, like I said, many of them are from throughout the United States and or, regionally, and it's a fun thing for them. And then installation morning is Saturday, May 20th. And weather, I'm hoping the snow is gone. We keep talking about that on our committee meetings, like, will the snow be gone? And then last year we did something kind of fun where with the Masonic Temple, which had completed a renovation and a smaller event space, we hosted a community sort of coffee donut sort of thing with the help of Dunkin' Donuts and other community sponsors, and people were able to tour the Masonic building. This year we're doing it with the Carnegie Art Center, and the Carnegie will be open from 9 to 11 Saturday morning. Various artists will be there throughout that time. There'll be coffee and donuts again, and all sorts of kids activities. You'll be hearing a lot more about that. I think there's face painting and sidewalk chalk art for kids. We've got bookmark contests, coloring book pages, things like that. And then an opportunity for the community, again, to really get to see the Carnegie, because often, especially the last several years, the Carnegie has been kind of closed off. And so a lot of people are interested, I think, to get in there. And it's a great collaboration of 2 arts organizations or, 2 arts causes and promotion. So I think that will really be fun. And I would encourage the community to come down to that.
What a fun way to get families involved and excited about the arts too. So we had met the new executive director, Charlie Leftridge, and had him on the podcast a few weeks ago. He's such an exciting person, and they're going to do wonderful things. So very excited to see what the spring brings for art in our community. Tami, is there anything you'd like to add?
I don't think so. What I really do want to stress is that this would not be possible without the support of the business community in particular, and all the volunteers. But without the business sponsorship support, this program would not be viable. And so I appreciate you and your company and all the sponsors that support this program. And, many of them are long term. So I just want to thank everybody for that. And they've made this program possible.
And thank you for your dedication to public art and to the CityArt organization. And thank you for coming on the podcast. We appreciate you taking some time out of the sun.
Well, actually, Brian and I are involved in a condo renovation. I shared with you, we've renovated our condo. It was a gut job renovation. And unfortunately, the Hurricane Ian disrupted the construction schedule. Not that our unit was damaged, but the property itself was shut down for many weeks, so it really delayed it. So we've been living with a lot of noise and getting settled. Not a whole lot of sun, but a little bit. So
Well, I hope that you're able to find some relaxation and enjoy the rest of your time. And again, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
thanks for asking. I appreciate it.